We are fed a very specific lie by Hollywood. It's the lie of the meet cute. You know the scene. You are in a coffee shop. It's raining outside. You are reading a book, maybe Salinger, maybe Austen. You reach for your latte at the same time as a handsome stranger. Your eyes meet. He makes a witty comment about the humidity or the slow Wi-Fi. You laugh. You exchange numbers. And the rest is a montage of walks in the park, shared umbrellas, and happily ever after. We want this to be true. We crave the idea that romance can be found in the mundane. We treat places like Starbucks not just as coffee shops, but as stages where our life's movie might finally begin. We call it the third place. It's not work, it's not home. It is a sanctuary of caffeine and free internet where we feel safe among strangers. But in the real world, the meet cute has a dark underbelly, because when a stranger approaches you in a coffee shop, you aren't reading a script. You don't know his backstory. You don't know if he's a romantic lead or the villain of a psychological thriller. This is a story about what happens when the meet cute goes wrong. It is a story about entitlement, delusion, and the terrifying persistence of the modern nice guy. It takes place in Washington Heights, New York. It involves a journalist, a tutor, and a 7-month barrage of digital harassment that proves one chilling fact. You don't need to be in a relationship with someone for them to abuse you. Sometimes all it takes is 1 cup of coffee. To understand the isolation of this story, we have to go back to the summer of 2011. Washington Heights, Manhattan. It is a vibrant, bustling neighborhood where the humidity clings to the pavement and the sound of bachata mixes with the traffic. It is the kind of place where people live their lives on the street and in the cafes. Our protagonist is a woman we will call Sarah. She is a journalist. She is articulate, intelligent, and like many writers in New York City, she uses Starbucks as her second office. It offers air conditioning, caffeine, and a level of anonymity. It's a public, safe, neutral ground. Or so she thought. One afternoon in July, Sarah is working. She is approached by a man. Let's call him the Tutor. He seems normal. In fact, he seems perfect on paper. He tells her he is a private tutor. He is articulate. He isn't aggressive. He doesn't use a cheesy pickup line. He just strikes up a conversation about what she's working on. For Sarah, this is flattering. It's normal. It is the moment every romantic comedy promises. They talk for a while. The conversation flows. He asks for her number. She gives it to him. Why? Because women are socialized to be open, because he seemed harmless. Because he was a tutor, an educator, a man of letters. They make plans for a date. In a horror movie, the audience screams at the screen, "Don't give him your number." But in real life, you cannot live in a state of constant paranoia. Sarah did nothing wrong. She took a chance on human connection. But the red flags started almost immediately. They met for their first official date. The tutor showed up with flowers. Now, flowers are nice. But on a first date, from a guy you met once at a Starbucks for 20 minutes, it's a gesture that sits right on the borderline. For some, it's romantic. For others, it's love bombing, an overwhelming display of affection designed to create instant intimacy and obligation. It signals, I am already invested in this. I am already writing our story. You are already mine. The date was fine. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't a spark. Sarah, being a journalist, is observant. She likely picked up on small things. Maybe he was too intense. Maybe he talked about himself too much. Maybe he didn't listen when she spoke. Whatever it was, the chemistry wasn't there. And that is allowed. Dating is a trial process. You meet, you assess, you decide. Sarah decided no. She did the polite thing. She declined a second date. She sent the standard text that every woman has sent a dozen times. It was nice meeting you, but I don't think we're a match. Best of luck. This should have been the end of the story. In a healthy interaction, the man says, okay, thanks for letting me know. Good luck. And they never speak again. But the tutor didn't hear no. He heard try harder. And when that didn't work, he heard punish her. Sarah stopped responding to his follow-up texts. She moved on with her life. She went back to work. But the tutor was just getting started. When his texts went unanswered, he didn't take the hint. He took to the internet. He knew her name. He knew she was a writer. He Googled her. He found her personal email address. This is the first major violation. Sarah gave him her phone number. She did not give him her email. By digging for it, he was crossing a boundary from suitor to investigator. Then the emails began. The early emails were deceptively casual. They were designed to mimic coincidence. He would email her saying things like, hey, I'm just in the neighborhood. I'm at the Starbucks on 181st. Are you around? Think about the psychology of this. He knows she works at Starbucks. He is physically placing himself in her known territory. He is insinuating himself into her routine. It's a tactic called proximity stalking. He isn't technically following her, but he is haunting the places she goes, hoping to force an interaction. He is turning her safe space into a minefield. Sarah ignored these emails. She maintained radio silence. This is the number one rule when dealing with unwanted attention. Do not engage. Do not feed the beast. But the tutor interpreted silence as a challenge. Throughout August, the emails shifted. The casual tone began to crack. The nice guy mask started to slip, revealing the entitlement underneath. By September, 2 months after their single date, the tone of the emails changed from hopeful to accusatory. This is a classic progression in the psyche of a stalker. Stage 1 is the pursuit. Stage 2 is the confusion. Stage 3 is the anger. He began to write long, rambling missives, analyzing her behavior. He called her condescending. He accused her of thinking she was too good for him. He wrote, I don't understand why you can't just have a coffee with me. I'm a nice guy. I treated you with respect. This is the mantra of the dangerous man. I am a nice guy. He believes that because he brought flowers, because he has a job, because he didn't physically attack her on the first date, he has purchased a right to her time. He views the date not as a mutual experience, but as a transaction. He put in nice coins, and he expects romance to dispense. When it doesn't, he feels robbed. He started critiquing her character. He told her she was rude. He told her she lacked manners. It's a technique known as negging, insulting the victim to lower their self-esteem, making them feel like they are the ones in the wrong. He wanted Sarah to reply, even if it was just to defend herself. He wanted to provoke a reaction. He wanted to prove that he existed in her world. As autumn set in, the emails became more frequent and more disturbing in their specificity. He wasn't just saying, "I'm around." He was telling her where he was, relative to her. He would email, "I'm sitting at the table we sat at. It's empty without you." Or worse, "I walked past your subway stop today." For Sarah, this transformed her neighborhood from a home into a prison. Every time she walked into a Starbucks, she had to scan the room. Is he here? Is that him in the corner with the laptop? Is that him watching me order? Every time her phone buzzed with an email notification, her stomach would drop. This is the goal of stalking, psychological colonization. He didn't need to be physically present to ruin her day. He lived in her pocket. He lived in her inbox. He occupied her mental space rent-free. This phenomenon isn't unique to Sarah. In fact, looking back from today's perspective, Sarah was almost lucky that this happened in 2011. Back then, a stalker had to rely on Google and physical proximity. They had to guess where you were. Today, the threat has evolved. Consider the terrifying rise of the AirTag stalker. In recent years, police reports have flooded in from women who leave a coffee shop or a bar only to get a notification on their iPhone. AirTag found moving with you. Modern predators don't just email you. They slip a coin-sized tracker into your purse or your coat pocket while you are waiting for your latte. They don't need to guess if you are at the Starbucks on 181st Street. They can watch a blue dot on a map follow you all the way to your front door. The technology has changed, but the psychology is identical. It is about access. It is about the refusal to let a woman disappear. For Sarah, the technology was email, but the effect was the same. She was being tracked, if not by GPS, then by guilt. She continued to ignore him, and this silence drove him mad. He would send multiple emails in a row. Email 1 at 10 a.m. Just wanted to say hi. Email 2 at 10:15 a.m. I guess you're busy. Email 3 at 11 a.m. You know, it's really rude to ignore people. I thought you were better than this. He was having a conversation with himself, using Sarah as a blank canvas to project his insecurities. By November, the strategy shifted again. The anger hadn't worked. The guilt-tripping hadn't worked. So he tried the final goodbye. He sent a long, dramatic email. "I'm sorry for bothering you. I realize I came on too strong. You won't hear from me again. I'm deleting your email. Goodbye." Sarah likely felt a wave of relief. It's over. He finally gets it. But it wasn't over. 3 days later, buzz, new email. "I just wanted to clarify one thing from my last email. This is the cycle of the obsession. The stalker cannot let go of the last word. He always needs one more sentence, one more explanation, one more attempt to control the narrative. The final goodbye is never final. It is a test. He waits to see if she will reply with, "Thank you, I appreciate that." When she doesn't, he relapses. He began to oscillate wildly between love and hate. In one email, he would say she was a woman of substance, and he just wanted to be friends. In the next, he would call her arrogant and cold. He was spiraling, and he was dragging her along for the ride. The holidays are a trigger for lonely, obsessive people. In December, the emails ramped up. He played the pity card. It's Christmas. Can't you just spare 10 minutes for a coffee? I don't have anyone else to talk to. This is weaponized pity. He is trying to leverage the cultural guilt of the holiday season. You're heartless if you ignore a lonely man at Christmas. But Sarah stood firm. She understood, consciously or subconsciously, that any engagement would reset the clock. If she replied once, he would have fuel for another 6 months. This isolation is a key component of the trauma. Sarah was alone in this, but it's important to note that sometimes the third place fights back. While Sarah dealt with her stalker in silence, other Starbucks locations have seen staff members stepping up to break this cycle. In a now viral incident from 2022 in Corpus Christi, Texas, a teenage girl was studying alone at a Starbucks when an older man approached her. He was loud. He was animated. He was invading her space, much like the tutor did with Sarah. But this time, someone noticed. A barista, watching from behind the counter, didn't just ignore it. She wrote a message on a paper cup and walked it over to the girl. The message read, "Are you okay? Do you want us to intervene? If you do, take the lid off the cup." The girl looked at the cup. She took the lid off, and the staff descended. They asked the man to leave. They protected her. This story highlights what should happen. It highlights the power of community awareness. But in 2011, Sarah didn't have a barista with a secret message. She only had her inbox, filling up day after day with the rantings of a man she rejected once. 7 months, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. Imagine having a headache that lasts for 7 months. Imagine having a stranger shouting through your letterbox for 7 months. In January, the tone became final. The emails became less coherent. The nice guy veneer was almost completely gone. He was angry. He was bitter. But eventually, the fire ran out of oxygen. The emails stopped. Not because he had an epiphany, not because he realized he was wrong, but likely because he found a new target. That is the chilling reality of these predators. They are sharks. They have to keep moving. When one source of supply dries up completely, thanks to Sarah's absolute silence, they move to the next victim. Sarah was left with an inbox full of madness and a permanent wariness of coffee shops. She later published the emails on Gawker, exposing the timeline of harassment to the world. It became a viral sensation, not because it was unique, but because it was universal. Almost every woman who read it nodded along. They recognized the tone. They recognized the entitlement. They recognized the man. Why is this story so important? Why does it resonate? Because the tutor is not a monster in a mask. He is a man we all know. He is the guy who insists on buying you a drink when you said no. He is the guy who texts when you don't reply in 5 minutes. He is the guy who thinks persistence is romantic, not terrifying. This case highlights several key warning signs of stalking behavior that everyone should know. First, the refusal to accept no. The tutor viewed no as a negotiation tactic, not a boundary. Second, the pivot to personal attacks. As soon as he didn't get what he wanted, he attacked her character. This shows that his kindness was conditional. It was a transaction. Third, forced intimacy. The flowers on the first date. The demands for her time. He tried to fast forward the relationship. And finally, digital boundary crossing. Finding her email when it wasn't given is digital trespassing. The hero of this story is Sarah, and her weapon was silence. It is incredibly difficult not to respond to someone who is insulting you. We want to defend ourselves. We want to say, I'm not arrogant, you're crazy. We want to say, leave me alone. But experts verify that Sarah did exactly the right thing. Gavin DeBecker, author of The Gift of Fear, writes that if you respond to a stalker after 30 emails, you have taught him that the price of your attention is 30 emails. Next time, he will send 30 immediately. Sarah starved the fire. It took 7 months, an agonizingly long time. But eventually, it worked. She didn't block him, which experts say can actually be dangerous, as you lose the ability to monitor their escalation. She filtered him, she archived the evidence, and she lived her life. We go back to Starbucks. The smell of coffee, the sound of the grinder, the indie folk music playing softly in the background. It feels safe. It feels like home. But stories like this remind us that there is no true safe zone when it comes to human behavior. The tutor looked like everyone else. He had a job. He was polite. He was educated. But beneath the surface, he was harboring a deep, corrosive entitlement that turned a casual meeting into a 7-month siege. The next time a stranger approaches you in a coffee shop, remember Sarah? Remember the teenage girl in Texas? Remember that you don't owe anyone your time, you don't owe anyone your number, and you certainly don't owe anyone a second date, no matter how many flowers they bring.